nothing. I'm just enlightening people on what's really going on. And if they want to help to change everything that's going on, they could do that. I mean, you got people coming that never did gangster rap before, because, okay, say the records that came out, they was commercial. All right, so they commercial, they come out, the records don't sell that much. The next album, they want to come out, they want to be gangster. G stuff come from the concrete, and that's the streets, which he was never from the streets.
You just saw one of the Mafia members. That's who he is. That's who Puffy is. He's one of the members of the mob.
Some people say that hip-hop's decline really started the day we lost Eazy-E, and we're left with P. Diddy. It's ironic considering how similar Eazy and Diddy seem on the surface, yet at their core, they're completely different. For one, Eazy was a real gangster who earned genuine respect from street gangs and had their backing.
Next album, they want to come out, they want to be gangster. I'm gonna be a gangster this record, man. I gotta make myself hard, because that stuff is selling. So everybody jumped on the bandwagon.
I watched that movie and stuff like that. I don't think that's true, because Eazy-E had the whole Alondra behind him.
While Diddy's so-called respect mainly came from the money he was willing to throw around, he used these connections when it suited him, only to turn his back on them when things got tough.
You had an issue with how Puffy treated his people, right? Like you. And I remember you saying that you had an issue with how Puffy did Shine.
I just think Puff, you know, he needs to be a stand-up man, man. That dude just sat up there and did that time for you. And God damn, homie. I was on top of the world until I met your dude. Wrong, dude.
Then there's the moral side of things. Sure, Eazy-E wasn't an angel, but he didn't rack up the kind of allegations Diddy's facing now, from accusations to rumors that he exploited people in the industry.
Combs is being charged with racketeering conspiracy, alleging he ran an enterprise that he engaged in forced labor or kidnapping, arson, and other crimes.
This contrast has people wondering if hip-hop would look different today if Eazy had held on to his throne. Maybe the genre wouldn't have taken such a sharp downturn when Diddy stepped in right after Eazy was gone. So let's dig a little deeper into this contrast. Eazy was one of the icons who put places like Compton on the global map, with his legendary group NWA, which included Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, MC Ren, and DJ Yella. He didn't just make music, he sparked a movement, but he left the scene too soon, and his absence left a void in hip-hop. Then came Diddy, who, instead of continuing the legacy Eazy had helped build, seemed to flip it on its head. These two shared some surprising similarities, yet at the same time their differences are what defined them. For instance, both Eazy and Diddy reportedly used the Southside Crips for protection at one point, but the difference is Southside Crips still respect Eazy-E to this day, seeing him as someone who stayed loyal until the end. Diddy, on the other hand, apparently used them when it was convenient and then turned his back, earning their disdain instead of their loyalty. Eazy was affiliated with the Southside Crips and had ties to some notable figures like Keefe D, who was a known player in the Compton gang scene. In the 90s, Keefe's family even had their own car shop on Long Beach Boulevard in Compton known as Compton Hydraulics. This spot wasn't just a shop, it was a hangout for people in the neighborhood, including music producers and street figures, which was how Eazy and Keefe D originally connected. Eazy grew up right in the thick of things near the Southside Crips territory in the Kelly Park Compton Crip neighborhood. He was close with Keefe D's brother, Kevin, so it's no shock that when Eazy went to shoot the video for his diss track Real Mother Effin' G's in 1993, he had some Southside Crips presence in the mix. One car in that video, the Gangster of Love, supposedly belonged to either a Southside Crip known as Big Spank or one of Keefe's family members. Even the guys in the video backed up this image, with some of them repping Southside Crip symbols, wearing Seattle Mariners hats with the S on the front, which was a known Crip emblem, and flashing gang signs. Eazy himself rocked a blue Mariners hat with a yellow S, aligning himself with the Southside Crips color scheme and style. Also featured on the track was rapper BG Knockout, who was reportedly tied to the Compton Nutty Block Crips. As for Diddy, the story goes that in the early 90s, Keefe D was introduced to Diddy by a mutual acquaintance, a man named Eric Von Zip Martin. Keefe and Diddy met at a party, shook hands, and that was that. At the time, Diddy was just starting out in his career, promoting artists and trying to make a name for himself. Keefe D described him as a kid with a little swag, but said he was broke back then, just hustling to make it.
It was through Zip Martin. Okay.
Zip Martin already had a business relationship with the Southside Crips.
So Puffy elected to, let's align ourselves with these street guys, with Zip. And then through Zip came Keefe.
Their first real business interaction came when Diddy rented a car from Keefe D for Usher's music video, Can You Get With It? Fast forward to the summer of '95, Keefe D was invited to a party called the Beat Summer Jam, organized by Diddy. Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records and a major figure in the West Coast rap scene, was also at the party. According to Keefe, Suge was jealous of Diddy because Diddy was on top of the game at the time. Biggie's hit One More Chance was everywhere, playing on every radio station. Suge asked Keefe how he knew Diddy, and Keefe responded that he knew him through drug dealing just like everybody else. But soon, things started to go south between Suge and Diddy, leading to the collapse of their relationship. Two key events took place that changed everything. This is the first event.
I won't have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing, coming Death Row.
The second is with Big Jake, Suge Knight's friend who was oft in an altercation between Death Row and Bad Boy Records at a club in Atlanta. Suge blamed Puffy for the emder, and Keefe said a member of Bad Boy Records called him and said, "Your boy, Big CEO, is tripping." Obviously, this was a reference to Suge. Keefe responded to him saying, "Just send me 40 to 59 tickets and we'll be in there deep at all your concerts." Puffy would give them tickets to be at their Bad Boy West Coast shows. They went everywhere with them. They'd meet up with them at the hotel, get the tickets, and go with them. Crips were backstage, deep at most of the West Coast shows. Because Zip and Puffy were always in contact with him, Keefe always knew where Puffy was, where to go if something were to happen.
And it was Puff. And he like, "You think it's cool to come out here and do concerts?" I'm like, "Why it wouldn't be cool?" So he like, "The big CEO dude." So
Suge.
Yeah.
According to Keefe's word, Puff was so scared that he hired ex-Navy SEALs, wearing earpieces like they work for the CIA in the hotel room next to his suite. Diddy would then take the feud further by allegedly going after one of Suge's closest allies, the legendary Tupac Shakur. According to Keefe D's story, Zip and Puffy met at a club and called him over. Then the following conversation took place. "What's up?" Keefe asked. "I need a couple of problems I need to be handled." "Big CEO and Pac," responded Puff. Keefe enthusiastically said, "That's not a problem, we can make that happen." According to Keefe's word, Puffy offered $1 million to take out Tupac and Suge Knight, but never followed through. Instead, he gave the money to Zip, who took off with it.
Was that after Tupac got Puffy allegedly gave the money
I heard
to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
Now, this situation is a stark contrast to Eazy-E. Eazy also had his fair share of beef with Suge Knight, but he handled it without violence. Even though it was speculated that Suge beat up Eazy-E, that was a lie. From the movie Straight Outta Compton, in one scene, Suge Knight is shown beating up Eazy-E to force him into signing over Dr. Dre's contract to Death Row Records.
Now.
But according to people like BG Knockout and Keefe D, that never actually happened.
Eazy getting beat up.
Yeah,
by
you
Suge
know.
and his people.
You don't want that problem.
Well, I
wouldn't want that problem.
Eazy had the backing of the Southside Crips, and it's highly unlikely that Suge even tried to lay hands on him.
I watched that movie and stuff like that. I don't think it's true because Eazy had the whole Alondra behind him.
Then there's the fact that both were producers in the game. Yet Eazy-E's approach was miles apart from Diddy's. Eazy wasn't known for manipulating or exploiting the artists he worked with. Diddy, however, has recently found himself in deep trouble, facing allegations of extortion, drugging, and even misconduct. This stark difference has left a lot of people wondering how hip-hop has changed so drastically. It seems like today's industry is flooded with stories of extortion, exploitative practices, and bizarre power dynamics, things that feel like the exact opposite of what artists like Eazy represented. The contrast has people questioning the state of the industry, with some saying if artists like Eazy-E and the old school icons were still around, things might be very different. Back then, hip-hop was led by raw, real voices like NWA and Tupac who were unapologetically authentic. Now, it's not uncommon to hear about industry plants rising to fame quickly and superstars being celebrated while accusations swirl around them. Take the whispers about a so-called mafia in the industry that's been making headlines lately. Several rappers have spoken up about it, hinting at shady practices and suggesting that people are being manipulated and pressured behind the scenes. First, there's Inspector Deck from Wu-Tang Clan. In one interview, he was giving advice to up-and-coming rappers, and he said something that's now getting a lot of attention. Deck warned newcomers that when they finally make it to Hollywood and start getting invited to those high-profile industry parties, they should be very careful about curiosity, especially about going off and opening any doors.
That too, man. Y'all up-and-coming rappers, y'all make it to Hollywood, y'all get invited to these parties and all that. Don't be curious, bro. Don't be opening doors.
Deck went on to share a story about a time he and fellow Wu-Tang member Ghostface K.O. went to one of these mysterious parties. According to him, they mistakenly opened a door, only to be shocked by what they saw inside. Deck described witnessing a lot of inappropriate behavior going on in these rooms, and the worst part was that the people involved were faces he knew. People he'd never have expected to be caught up in that kind of stuff.
Bro, we opened the door and we saw it. You know what I'm saying? We saw a whole lot of, you know.
and it was people that you were familiar with.
Yeah.
Deck said it was a lot of stuff going on behind those doors, and although he personally didn't have an issue with anyone, it felt strange and unsettling to see people who had publicly presented themselves one way engaging in things they'd never hinted at before.
You know, nothing against gay people. There's a lot of gay going on.
This left a lasting impression on him, and he wanted to warn others about the unusual situations they might find themselves in if they're not careful. Then there's Old Dirty ODB, another Wu-Tang Clan member who was known for being very open about the disturbing things he'd witnessed in the industry. Before his untimely death, ODB had been outspoken in interviews about shady activities and dark secrets within the music world.
I'm not crazy at all, okay? Everybody always saying that Dirty is crazy. Dirty is not crazy at all. Dirty just foresee.
Yeah, it seemed like no one really listened to him. In fact, there are multiple clips of interviews where fellow Wu-Tang members can be seen talking over him or trying to shift the conversation, almost like they were trying to silence him. In one of these interviews, he even made a chilling statement that if anything happened to him, it would be the CIA's doing.
You got 2 special cuts on the album. You got
27 cuts
on the CIA.
Officially, ODB's death was attributed to an accidental overdose, but these resurfaced videos have left some people questioning that explanation and wondering if there's more to the story. Another rapper who shed light on these industry parties is Bun B. In an interview, he talked about how at some point in a rapper's career, they'll eventually be invited to these exclusive gatherings. According to Bun B, when you get to the house where the party is held, it's set up with different rooms, each designated for specific activities.
At some point, you're gonna get invited into a house. And the house is gonna be broken down into certain rooms. And these rooms are designated by activities.
The rule is that if you're not willing to engage in what's going on in that particular room, then you won't be able to enter. Bun B said that when he first got invited to one of these parties, he quickly realized that the activities happening there were not for him. So he decided to back out instead of getting involved in something he was uncomfortable with.
So if you don't do the activities, you don't get in the room, right? So like me, I smoke weed. You know, I don't do coke. So I'm never gonna be allowed into the coke room. There's some of these houses and parties I've been invited to, you get there and you realize, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to see, could I get invited and get in there? And then you get in there and realize, man, I don't do this shit.
Next up, we have Too Short. In an interview on Vlad TV, when asked whether he believed in the idea of this mafia running parts of the industry, Too Short didn't hold back. He essentially said that if you openly talk about these things, there could be consequences.
You talk about it, something's gonna happen to you.
Yeah? So you think there's a gay mafia?
I think if you talk about it, something's gonna happen to you.
He shared a bit about his own evolution on this subject. Back in the 90s, he admitted he was pretty but being in the industry pushed him to change. According to Too Short, as a rapper, it's almost impossible to get things done, like even shooting a music video without interacting with a variety of people in one way or another.
I was in the 90s, and the world got so that it just kind of went away. I've been around tons of them. It's like, I used to be like, you know, get the but now I don't, if you can't shoot a video, you can't do anything. You can't get on an airplane, you can't do anything without having to interact with.
He eventually found himself surrounded by individuals with different aspects of his work, and at some point, he just had to adapt and give up his previous outlook. Then there's Nori, who also spoke out in a Vlad TV interview and confirmed that this does exist in the industry. According to Nori, if you reach a certain level of wealth or success in the hip-hop world, there's no avoiding it. It's an inevitable part of the industry landscape.
When you're in the industry, and the minute you make a certain amount of money, you cannot avoid it. You know what I'm saying? It's here.
He also explained that once you're at a high level, you essentially face 3 doors to continue pushing your career forward. He described these doors as left, right, and straight. The straight door, he said, means going forward independently, where those in power at the top want to see if you can keep your success going based solely on your talent and without extra help or connections.
When you get to a level of success, there's 3 different ways to walk. There's to the left, there's to the right, and then there's straight. Straight is you're on your own. Let's see if you continue this success, young man.
On the other hand, Nori described the right door as being where people are willing to embrace, quote, certain connections and networks within the LGBTQ+ community in order to keep progressing. Then he mentioned the left door, which he associates with the so-called Illuminati, a group rumored to be involved in power circles in the entertainment industry. Nori admitted that he didn't have full clarity on what was behind these doors, but he shared that he was once presented with these options. Ultimately, he chose to go straight, preferring to rely on his own talent, and in saying this, he pretty much confirmed that these so-called doors do exist in some form.
To the right, I'm not sure if that's the right there. And then there's to the left, I'm not sure if there's some sacrifice. I'm not sure because I went straight. But I was offered these doors.
Then there's Ali Vegas, who took things even further by giving a glimpse into how the people in power supposedly push rappers into certain directions through these inappropriate behaviors. According to Ali Vegas, one of the tactics they use is through stylists who are sent to work with artists. He described how a stylist might show up with a specific shirt and try to get the artist to wear them.
They send the stylist at them first.
Yeah. Yep.
And if the stylist report back and be like, oh, he ready, then they invite you to the party.
If the artist agrees, that's seen as a kind of green light, signaling they're open to going along with whatever comes next. From there, the artist gets invited to these infamous parties where, according to Ali Vegas, everything changes and the story basically writes itself from there.
Like, they've tried to put this tight ass shirt on you.
That's what they do.
And if you wear the shirt,
they like, oh, he ready. Then next thing you know, you get invited to the party where the greeting is the man squeezing your.
Next up is T. Miles, who had some shocking things to say about the hidden dynamics in the music industry. In one interview, he described how powerful figures at the top manipulate rappers in disturbing ways. According to T. Miles, it's possible for an artist to wake up one day in an unfamiliar situation only to find themselves doing something they hadn't expected to be doing.
I'm telling y'all, they around out here. Y'all, they are around. You around, wake up tomorrow with a footy on and don't know what the you just did.
The troubling part is the artists often can't recall what happened or how they ended up in that position, leaving them confused and deeply unsettled. T. Miles explained that it's an experience so strange and violating that the artist doesn't even know who to turn to for help, not wanting to risk their reputation or open up about something they don't fully understand. T. Miles went on to describe how after an incident like this, the same powerful figures behind the scenes approached the artist with a contract. They pressured the artist to sign, presenting it as a kind of deal for continued career success. If the artist refuses, that's when things take an even darker turn. According to T. Miles, these figures will then reveal a video of the deed that the artist unknowingly took part in, a video capturing moments the artist has no memory of, likely because they were drugged.
So you don't want to sign with us? Nah, nah. Man, pop in the tape. Show this what he did last night. I'm serious. You sitting that motherfucker like, man, what the Yeah, well, what the that's what happened. You got what you gonna do? You gonna sign that contract. You don't want nobody in the hood to see that shit.
The shock of seeing this footage and the fear of it being leaked often leaves the artist feeling trapped. T. Miles, claimed that many rappers end up signing these contracts out of pure desperation to keep the footage hidden, choosing to comply rather than risk the massive damage it could do to their career and image if it went public. And then there's the ongoing decline in hip-hop. Apparently, there hasn't been a single top-charting hip-hop song or album until last year. To put this into perspective, this kind of drought hasn't happened since 1993. Naturally, people are starting to ask, is hip-hop on the decline? Has the music itself fallen off? Or are there no new superstars bringing fresh energy? While it would be easy to chalk it up to any of these reasons, the real answer is way more complex.
I don't know who created it, if it was Future or Migos, but all them sound the same. I said, had me in the studio one night trying to do that. Like, man, cut this shit off. I'm here doing that. I don't rap like that.
To understand why hip-hop finds itself in this weird spot, we need to go back a bit. Since the birth of rap, one thing has always defined the genre: its constant evolution. Every few years, hip-hop finds a new sound, a new movement that resonates with the culture. Whether it was G-Funk dominating the West Coast, boom bap on the East, or the crunk and bling eras of the 2000s, each era brought a new sound that reflected its time. And these shifts kept hip-hop dynamic, fresh, and unpredictable. But if we fast forward to the 2010s, something changed. Around the mid-2010s, trap music took over, and artists like Future, Young Thug, and Lil Uzi Vert became the faces of this movement. Trap beats, infectious melodies, and hypnotic flows pushed hip-hop to new commercial heights, transforming it into a massive industry force. It was fresh, addictive, and at that time felt revolutionary. But here we are, a decade later, and trap is still the dominant sound in hip-hop. In hip-hop's history, no single style has ever stayed at the forefront for so long. Usually, a sound peaks and fades, making way for something new every few years. But for some reason, hip-hop today seems stuck, unable to shake off the trap era, even though its peak may be behind us. This isn't just about the music itself, though. Just like each era had its own sound, it also had its own faces. From Biggie and Tupac to Jay-Z and Nas, the rap game has always seen its icons evolve, keeping fans guessing about who would be the next big star. In the early 2010s, we saw the rise of a new big three in Kanye West, Eminem, and Lil Wayne, only to have Kendrick Lamar, Drake, and J. Cole take over that title shortly after. But here's the thing, we're more than a decade into their reign, and Kendrick, Drake, and Cole are still at the top of the game. In the past, hip-hop would have crowned a new big three by now. Yet, here we are with Kendrick having only released one album in 5 years, Cole and Drake hinting at retirement, and no clear vision for the future of the genre's icons. It's almost as if hip-hop is holding on to them because there's no one ready to take the baton, or maybe because the industry isn't allowing fresh talent the room to truly grow and reach that level. When you dig into why things are this way, it all starts to make sense, from trap music's dominance to Kendrick, Cole, and Drake's decade-long hold on the culture. It's clear that hip-hop is frozen in time, and a big part of the problem comes down to the digital age and how we consume music today. Things move so fast thanks to streaming platforms, TikTok trends, and a constant flood of content that, ironically, they haven't moved at all. Labels are putting immense pressure on artists to find success instantly, making them focus on crafting viral moments, whether it's a catchy 7-second clip for TikTok or nostalgia-baiting listeners by sampling old hits. Instead of nurturing new artists to develop their sound and bring genuine creativity to the table, the industry is obsessed with quick results. Artists aren't encouraged to explore or innovate. They're pushed to create catchy, short snippets that blow up online, essentially following a formula rather than making real music. And that's why creativity feels stifled. And then you have someone like Diddy, who could have been using his influence to guide up-and-coming artists, helping them develop the way the OGs did back in the day. But instead, he's been making headlines for all the wrong reasons, facing criminal accusations rather than building hip-hop's future.